That at the forefront of my mind would be the Federal Reserve, indefinite detention, and all kinds of other abuses against our Constitution. But here I am today, and here you are. Commander-in-Chief. Whereas President Obama's chief donors are Goldman Sachs and the big banks. I love you people. Dr. Paul's primary donors or biggest donors come from the Navy, the Air Force, the Army.
Successful, it will permeate all of society, just as the liberalism permeated both the Democratic and Republican society, and we all became Keynesians. This movement is going to go to the point where we're going to have a time when we can say we're all Austrian free market economists. In the meantime, right now, our vehicle is a particular election going on, and it's in the Republican primary, and a very powerful message can be sent by winning this election. Now, if you look at the evening news, you'll say, well, too bad, he doesn't show up here, they don't even list his name, these things. But right now, we are second in numbers of delegates actually committed. Is really important, and in some states they're still trying to figure out how to count the popular vote. But our organization is doing the job as necessary and working through the process, which I hope can happen here in Michigan as well. But I'm excited about what's happening because the country has certainly changed. In the last 5 years, I believe it has changed for the better. The number of people now waking up, both young and old, and saying enough is enough, it really shows that the country is way ahead of Washington. Washington is still sound asleep. Now, let me tell you, they don't know you exist out there. But that's our job, and that's why a good showing and winning an election and doing well in these primaries is so important. We need to wake up Washington, D.C., for they're sound asleep, and they need to hear our message loud and clear. August 15, 1971, it was the initial stage of the declaration of insolvency or bankruptcy of this country. Now, we we've lingered for a long time, and we have perpetuated and propagated the system we have, but all it has done is perpetuate debt. Now, because the debt has been allowed to build up, and it's not just domestic debt, it's worldwide debt, is we now are in the biggest debt crisis in the history of the world. And it's been perpetuated by the dollar standard, this ability for us to issue the reserve standard of the world and live on it. Because they can't stop it. So, but although this was known for many years, it was coming, and the 1971 announcement was well known, and the bubbles that have been formed over these last 40 years, that has all been known. But we seem to struggle and get out of the recessions and depressions that we've had. But it's always been with more spending, more debt, more inflation, until we got to the point where the debt was uncontrollable and unsustainable. Today, there's a semblance of prosperity in this country, though the unemployment rate is much higher than the government will admit. There's a semblance of prosperity, but it's all based on debt. And this is why the debt crisis is at our doorstep. If you look at the debt per GDP, our debt is bigger GDP-wise than the Greek debt. That's how serious it is. We literally own, our national debt is $16 trillion. We owe foreigners $3 trillion. And what are we doing? We're adding at least $1.5 trillion every year to the debt. And what do they do in the Congress? What do? They twiddle their thumbs. They say, oh yeah, we're worried about it. But you know what they don't do? They never cut anything. They only raise more. You have to cut the spending, and that's the reason I say the first year we should cut the spending by $1 trillion. In trouble from spending too much, the answer is spend more. And so they say, wouldn't this be a terrible time? And even Bernanke, can you remember that guy's name? Bernanke? He has been challenging me, not by name of course, but he said these people, whoever they are, maybe makes no sense whatsoever. The Constitution, the advice of the founders say we should not get involved in entangling alliances nor on the internal affairs of other nations. And yet to have the European debt dumped on us, the Greek debt and others, they're dumping that debt on us. And of course, done in secret, I'm doing my very best. You know what is really old? And that is tyranny. And that's what we have.